Hey, good day to you. This is Todd. I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word. We are jumping into Judges. Today we are in chapter 4 of Judges. We're going to be reading about Deborah today. Deborah, it was a woman, of course, and it's kind of unusual to have a judge be a woman, especially in that day and age when the women were not highly respected. But in this case, God uses a woman to judge Israel. And actually, there's a Barak is the man, and he could have been someone great too, but he actually turns out to be a wimpy guy. The thing you'll see today is God will use whomever he can, and whoever is willing to follow him and be bold in following him, even if it's a woman, okay? So in this case, there was not a man standing up, and so he used a woman, okay? Let's read, if you have your Bibles, chapter 4. It says this. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Now Ehud was dead. So the Lord sold him into the hands of Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. Sisera, the commander of his army, was based in Hashrath Haggam. Okay? Because he had 900 chariots fitted with iron and had cruelly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years, they cried to the Lord for help. Okay, so remember, we're in the cycle. The cycle continues through Judges, where they do evil in the eyes of the Lord, and then the Lord turns them over to the enemy, and then they're like tired of being ruled by the enemy, and so then they cry out to the Lord, and the Lord will send a judge, and the judge will rescue them, and they will gladly follow the Lord for a time, and then they fall back into sin, and then the cycle continues on. Verse 4, Now Deborah, a prophet, the wife of Lapidoth, was leading Israel at that time. She held court under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. And the Israelites went up to her and had to have their disputes decided. She sent for Barak, son of Abednom, from Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, The Lord, the God of Israel, commands you, Go take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun, and lead them up to Mount Tabor. I will lead Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his troops to the Kishon River, and give them into your hands. Sounds easy enough. She is summoned by the prophet. Deborah is the prophet there at that time, and she's told by God, go summon Barak and tell Barak to lead against the enemy, and he's going to give them into their hands. It would seem like an easy enough thing for Barak, okay? Just listen to the prophet, and God said that he would deliver it. But you're going to find out Barak is kind of a wimpy guy and doesn't it's like, oh, are you sure? So let's see what happens here. Verse 8, Barak said to her, If you go with me, I will go. But if you don't go with me, I won't go. Oh my goodness. This is like the most wimpy thing to say. I'll go if you come along with me. Having a woman come along to battle with you, that's crazy. But he does. That's what he says. Verse 9, Certainly I will go with you, said Deborah, but because of this course you are taking, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman. So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh, and there Barak summoned Zebulun and Naphtali, and 10,000 men went up under his command. Deborah also went up with him. Can you imagine? You got this army full of men, and then right there is a woman too, and everyone's like, oh, what's she doing here? Well, because the commander was too scared, he wanted to have the woman with him. Verse 11, Now Heber the Canaanite had left the other Kenites, the descendants of Hobab, Moses' brother-in-law, and pitched his tent by the great tree in Zabnab near Kadesh. Okay, these were descendants that were back. Moses' wife was from that region, so these were descendants of that. So this is Heber. Okay, when they told Sisera that Barak, son of Abednom, had gone up from Mount Tabor, Sisera summoned Hazrath Haggam to the Kishon River on all his men, and 900 chariots fitted with iron. Then Deborah said to Barak, Go, this is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has not the Lord gone ahead of you? So Barak went down Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following him. At Barak's advance, the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and the army by the sword. And Sisera got down from his chariot and fled on foot. Okay? So, finally, Barak, he listens to what Deborah has said, and he then becomes bold, I guess, and he goes in hot pursuit of Barak and is fighting against him. And the Lord was with him, and then he's defeating the enemy. And Sisera, the commander, is now being chased, and he runs off of his chariot. That's kind of like running out of your tank, okay? Unless your tank is, in the modern military, you wouldn't run out of a tank. The tank is kind of your fortress. Unless your tank is stuck and you're just sitting there like a sitting duck, okay? And that's what seemed to be what happened here. Verse 16. Barak pursued the chariots and the army as far as Hasheroth-Haggim, and all Sisera's troops fell by the sword. Not a man was left. Ain't that amazing? Like everyone was just killed by the sword. Sisera, meanwhile, fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Canaanite, because there was an alliance between Jabin, king of Hazor, and the family of Heber the Canaanite. So the enemy is going they have like a peace treaty here. And so he runs to this tent. Jael went out to meet him. Jael is the wife, okay? Went out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Come, my lord, come right in. Don't be afraid." So he entered her tent, and she covered him with a blanket, okay? It must have been a really big alliance, because it's like forbidden to like go into a woman's tent, okay? But he went in there, and she encouraged him, okay, like to hide him. Jael went out to meet Sisera, and Sisera said, "Come, my lord, come right in. Don't be afraid." So he entered her tent, and she covered him with a blanket. So she's hiding him with a blanket. He's probably tired too. Verse 19, "I'm thirsty," he said. "Please give me some water." She opened a skin of milk and gave him a drink and covered him up. Okay? Even better than water, she gave him milk, okay? And that might make you more sleepy. But it fills your belly up, that's for sure. Verse 20, "Stand in the doorway of the tent," he told her. "If someone comes by and asks you, 'Is anyone in there?' say no." Okay, so here we got another wimpy guy that's having a woman be on guard, okay? He's not out there protecting the woman. The woman is guarding him. This is like the story of the wimps here, okay? But Jael, Heber's wife, picked up a tent peg and a hammer and went quietly to him while he lay fast asleep, exhausted. Okay, so I have my hammer here, and I have my tent peg. I have actually several tent pegs. This is probably something more like what they would have used. This is steel, of course. It would have been wood back then. And it would have had to have been a serious tent peg, so it could have been bigger than this. Maybe more like this length here, okay? Or this is probably a better picture. Something like this length, but it would have been made of wood, okay? They didn't have steel tent pegs back then. But a wood tent peg, and it would have been sharp, to go in. But they had big tents. It's not a little two-man pup tent like we have today. This was a big tent. So you would have a serious tent peg holding it up, not some wimpy thing. So it would have been wider than this, and wider and made out of wood. And then she takes the hammer, and she takes the tent peg, and she's going to nail him to the floor. Bam, just like that. Nail him to the floor. So let's see what happens. She drove the peg through his temple into the ground, and he died. Okay? Whoop. He's laying there. Bang. Tent peg right here. Dunk. And she nails it through him. All right. Wow. What a story. Just then, Barak came by in pursuit of Sisera, and Jael went out to meet him. "Come," she said, "and I will show you the man you're looking for." So he went in with her, and there lay Sisera with a tent peg through his temple, dead. On that day God subdued Jabin, king of Canaan, before the Israelites. And the hand of the Israelites pressed harder and harder against Jabin, king of Canaan, until they destroyed him. Okay? That's chapter 4. Big thing here is this. For men, don't be a wimp. You stand up and do what God has called you to do. Okay? And the reality is also this, that if there's not a man standing up to do ministry or to stand up for women and children, then God will use the women. Okay? He's not just going to, let nothing happen. He will use whoever's available. And in this case, he used Deborah, and then he used the woman in the tent, and said, come on in. And kind of seduced him in there, put him to sleep, and then, put the tent peg through him. Okay? And she ended up being the hero out of all this. So remember that today. Men, don't be a wimp. Stand up for what you believe in, of course, but stand up for God, stand up for your wife, girlfriend, whatever. Stand up for women and children, okay? And then remember, God will use anybody that he wants to, and especially if no one is standing up, he will use the least to do his will. All right? A fascinating story. This going through Judges here, it's a lot of interesting stuff here. And how God uses people and whom he chooses to use. All right. Thanks for watching. I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word, and we will continue on tomorrow, jumping into Judges. We'll see you then. Lord's blessing to you.